Hi, this is Carolyn S. Dean, and on behalf of Health Engine and the Fully Booked Dentist, I'd like to welcome you to tonight's webinar. So the subject for tonight is using dental marketing for Fully Booked 2020. And it's our second webinar, so thank you for tuning in and thank you for taking the time to learn how to use marketing to grow your dental practice. So tonight's webinar, I want to talk about what you can do to get your practice ready for 2020 and what you can do to maximise the return on investment of your marketing. So there's 4 steps I'm going to cover. The first is reviewing the current situation, your numbers, patients, your competition. Second step is your goal. So thinking about what you want to do with your practice, what your marketing budget is going to be. It's incredibly important to think about your goals before you start to market. Obviously planning and what marketing you should include for your 2020 strategy, and then obviously tracking and what you should put in place to track your marketing. So if you do have questions about anything that's covered in this webinar, I suggest that you join the Facebook group, so the Dental Marketing Secrets closed Facebook group. So search in Facebook, look for Dental Marketing Secrets, and you will see a page that looks just like this. There is a copycat page in there, so just make sure it looks like this, and you'll be asked questions about why you want to join, and all you need to do is say that you're on the Health Engine webinar and we can give you access. So before I start, I want to talk about the problems that I see when it comes to marketing a practice. So number 1 is practices don't have a plan. So it's exactly what we're talking about tonight, and it's about planning your marketing and having a strategy. Another problem is wrong skills. So very few of you, I'm guessing, have been to university or to college and have any formalised marketing skills. So it's important to skill yourself up and understand how you can use marketing effectively to market your practice. And the final one, unfortunately, are the practices that have been burnt. They bought something from suppliers that they don't want, don't need, and don't understand. So those are the 3 problems that I see when I talk to dental practices. And on top of this, to add to the confusion, I'm guessing that you guys have marketing companies constantly calling you, trying to sell you something that you don't actually need, that they want to sell you, but it's not something that you need for your practice. Well-meaning people are offering advice, so it might be your team, might be your members of your family, it might even be your patients, but everybody has an opinion on marketing, what they think you should do. And the reality is that marketing is constantly evolving, and it really is incredibly hard to keep up with the latest trends and techniques when it comes to marketing your practice. And I'm guessing that the majority of you want to focus on running your practice and delivering great clinical skills to happy patients. So just briefly, who am I? I'm a dental marketing strategist, author and speaker. I'm the founder of Fully Booked Dentist Marketing Academy, and I have over 25 years in marketing and sales and over 15 in the dental health and medical industry. And why do I exist, or why do I spend my life giving seminars and webinars? And the reality is that I'm absolutely passionate about educating you guys to understand how you can use dental marketing to grow your practice. And I'm very tired of speaking to dentists who've wasted their time, money and effort on marketing that they don't need, don't want, and don't understand. It's getting more and more competitive out there, and you really do need to understand how to market your practice. So I guess the fact that you're taking the time listening to this webinar is an indication that you value marketing. And something that I have written is a book. It's full of tips, techniques, case studies on what I think you need to know when it comes to running your practice or using marketing to run your practice. And I'm very proud to say that I was actually awarded the Dental Industry Professional Award in 2018. So let's talk about 2020 and what you guys need to do to grow your practice. So number one, the importance of planning. We're here to think about a plan. We're here to think about 2020 and what you need to do to stay ahead. So the reality is, and I'm sure you know that this is, if you are not planning, then you're likely to court failure. You really need to think about where you're heading. You really need to think about where you've been. You need to analyse what you've done before, and you need to think about where you're going in the future. I speak to so many practices that really don't know from day to day what they're going to do to market their practice. It's all a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. It's always, or very often, very responsive, and you need to start with a plan. So this is what, hopefully at the end of this evening's webinar, you will have a plan. You will have some thoughts about what you can do to market your practice for the year ahead. So truthfully, before you can start planning your year ahead, you need to think about your last year. So what do you need to think about? You need to think about what worked, what didn't work, what needs to be changed. And it's really important to celebrate the successes. You need to really sit back and say, okay, what went well? And why did it go well? And what can we do next year to make it even better, to grow on those successes? And with what didn't work, why didn't it go well? Do you need to tweak things? Do you need to stop things? You really need to analyse your previous year before you can start afresh. And if you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, I actually didn't do a lot last year, then, maybe sit down and say, well, why? Why didn't we achieve this? Why didn't we do anything? What got in the way? What stopped us from moving forward last year? So I really do recommend that you sit down and you analyse what went wrong, what you did, what you didn't do, and why. So when I work with practices, I go very, very deeply into the numbers side of marketing. My belief is you really do need to analyse numbers. You really do need to have the data there to show you what worked, what didn't work, and why. And if you don't have this in place, if you're not tracking your numbers, then the beginning of the year is the perfect time to think about this. So when I work with practices, we look at a huge amount of numbers, okay? Obviously, you guys, we need to start you off slowly. So these are the 4 most important numbers in your business, okay? So annual revenue, I guess 5 important numbers, and with that, your profit, okay? I'm guessing that you are tracking your revenue, and I'm hoping you're tracking your profit. Marketing expenditure. You need to think, beginning of the year, you need to plan and think about how much you're going to spend and on what. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Your number of active patients. This is the absolute minimum number that you should be pulling out of your practice management software. Okay, so as I said, when we work with practices, we go into a huge amount of detail. But if you can just start by analysing your active patient numbers on a monthly basis, then that is a really great way to start. And then new patients per month, absolutely critical as well. Okay, so this is what I consider as the heartbeat, the most important. These are the basic numbers. If you're already tracking these, then please pop into the Facebook group and ask some questions, and I can tell you what else I think you should be tracking if you're already tracking these. So one of the numbers that's important is average lifetime of value of a patient. Very few practices that we start working with actually have analysed this number. But the reality is, if you don't know how much a patient is worth to you over their lifetime with your practice, then how do you know how much you're going to spend to attract new patients in? How do you know how much you're going to spend to keep the patients in the practice? So I was working with a practice over in WA, and we analysed these numbers. We found out these numbers, and typically these numbers are probably, for a typical practice, between 15 and $25,000. Okay, so that's $15,000 to $25,000 in the average lifetime value. So the practice I was working with over in WA, the practice owner said, wow, and it was $21,000, $21,000. Okay, we really need to focus on keeping those patients in the practice. Practice manager went, wow, $21,000, that gives me a whole lot of freedom to be able to spend and know how much I'm spending to get new patients in. So I do recommend that you calculate this, and if you do want a tip sheet on this, then again just pop into the Facebook group and I can send you a tip sheet. It's also in my book, and the book is available on Amazon, on most online bookshops, or from the Fully Booked Dentist website. So when you're thinking about the average lifetime value of a patient, what should you consider? Okay, because you need to think about this in terms of how long they stay at your practice. You need to think about how much they would spend on average in a year, but you also need to think about the average number of referrals per patient. I'm hoping that most of you have got practices that have a high level of referrals. This needs to be taken into consideration, and also the spend of those referrals on average to get the absolute number of your average lifetime value of a patient. So I want to go back 2 steps, and I want you to think about the basics. I want you to think about why you're in business, why your practice is in business. I want you to think about your core values, what makes you different, okay? What do you care about? I want you to think about your patients and what they care about. And I need you to think about your competition. So once upon a time, it was okay for you to market to everybody. It was okay for you just to be another dentist, but in today's competitive environment, you really need to think about who you're trying to attract and why. So the reality is that you can't jump in and you can't start marketing to patients until you've actually thought about what they care about. Now, what do they want to know about your practice? What do you offer that nobody else does? Okay, what makes you different? What are people saying about you when you're not in the room? You know, you used to be able to trying to attract everybody, but now you can't. So it's a very high level webinar tonight, but I do wish that you could think about your ideal patient and what makes you different and what they care about. So we are going to go quickly tonight. We are going to cover a lot of material, but if you do have questions, please go into the Dental Marketing Secrets Facebook group and ask there. I can supply more information. Okay, it's very high level. We've only got an hour together tonight. Okay, so step 2, your goals. So we've talked about numbers, okay, and I'm hoping that you have numbers that you can identify with your revenue goal, your profit goal, the number of active patients that you would like to have on your books, and obviously how many new patients you would like every month. But on top of that, think about what your focus is for this year. Is there something that you're doing this year that makes you stand out? Are you launching a new practice, rebranding or relaunching your practice? Maybe you're expanding, adding some chairs to your practice. These are all noteworthy events. These are all things that you should target for the year. Some practices have huge anniversaries. I spoke to a practice recently and they said, oh yes, we're celebrating. Oh, they actually said, we've got nothing of note this year. Well, apart from the fact we're celebrating our 30th year in business. And it was like, really guys, that's such a big deal. This should be the focus of your practice. So if you have got an anniversary, a big anniversary, and big anniversary may be a 1 year in practice, okay, it's worth celebrating and it's worth being the focus of your 2020? Are you bringing in new services? Do you have a new direction? Is this something that you should be focusing on promoting throughout the year? Or maybe you just need to have a theme. Maybe there is something that you really want to focus on this year. Improving your patient communication, improving customer service, or even just running on time. So when you're planning, when you're sitting down with a team, think about what you want to focus on this year. What things for your practice do you really care about this year? And then you can start planning about that. So your numbers. I've talked about annual revenue, number of active patients, new patients per month, and your marketing budget. So the reality is your marketing budget absolutely aligns with your growth goals. So if you are a practice that's brand new, then you obviously need to have a budget that's much higher than a more established practice. So in my book, I talk about 3 phases of growth. So there's rapid growth, sustained growth, or retention. So a rapid growth practice it's a brand new practice, okay? Or it might be a practice where you've brought on a number of the team. You might have a new associate that you have to fill the books, or you've maybe added a couple of chairs to your practice, but you need rapid growth in your practice numbers, your patient numbers, okay? You need to bring in a lot of patients very, very quickly. Sustained growth, and most practices fit into this, is where it's steady, controlled growth, okay? You need some new patients, obviously, most practices do, and you need to retain your existing patients, but there's nothing urgent here. And patient retention are for those few and lucky practices that don't actually need your patients and they just want to retain the patients that you have. So obviously, these 3 levels of growth goals, you're going to need a different budget, okay? Because the more you need to grow, the higher your marketing budget. So hopefully this makes sense. So a good rule of thumb is rapid growth. Obviously you need to get patients in quickly, so you need to spend more money. So 7 to 10% of your annual gross income. Okay, so your target revenue, 7 to 10% is what you should be putting aside as your marketing budget. Sustained growth between 4 to 7, and patient retention 2 to 3. So we're here at the beginning of the year. Sit down and look at your target revenue goal, work out what your marketing budget is, and then literally just say, okay, well, how much does that break down to a quarter? How much does that break down to a month? And how am I going to allocate that? So do some maths, guys. Start the year as you mean to go on and start cranking those numbers. If you do have questions, then please log into the Facebook group and ask away. Okay, so planning for 2020. And I just want to take you back to the absolute basics here. Okay, so number 1, and those of you that have seen my seminars or webinars before may be familiar with these. Okay, there is no silver bullet when it comes to marketing your practice. So there is no one thing that you can do that guarantees that you're going to get new patients. Okay, there is no one thing that will guarantee that you can retain your existing patients. Okay, if you have somebody phoning you up and they're guaranteeing that they can deliver a product which is going to take all your marketing woes away, please put down the phone. Okay, there is no silver bullet. There are no guarantees. Desperate practices look for desperate solutions. Marketing takes time. It takes consistency. There is nothing instant, okay, that will guarantee you new patients. So please, there is no silver bullet. The next one is be authentic. So if you are an established practice and you've been in practice for 30 years, but actually your practice was renovated 30 years ago, don't put out marketing that says that you've got the latest technology and you're a dental spa. Okay, you need to be authentic. If you're saying that you've got the friendliest practice in town and yet you know that your receptionist is the grumpiest person in town, again, don't say that. You've got to be authentic. So make sure you know what makes you different. Make sure you know what makes you stand out. Make sure you know what you're good at in your practice and start talking about it. Don't try and be everybody else. Don't try and be what other people are saying about themselves. You know, be yourself, be unique, be authentic. And the final one is everything is marketing. So one of the misperceptions that I have when I talk to practices is that people don't really understand what marketing is. They don't understand that every interaction that you have and your team has with a patient will affect your brand. I'm going to repeat that. Every interaction, every conversation that you and your team have with the patients will affect your brand. So if you do have the grumpiest receptionist, it will affect your brand. Okay, if you can't present your treatment types effectively, it's going to affect your brand. If you're always running late, it will affect your brand. On the flip side, if you have the most genuine, passionate, friendly team, that will also affect your brand. Okay, so everything is marketing. So hopefully these rules have helped you understand a little bit of the basics. Okay, so foundations. I'm going to split the areas of marketing into 3 areas. Okay, foundations, external and internal marketing. So when you're analysing what you need to do this year, when you're choosing what you need to do this year, I split it into 3. So you can analyse how you're going with your foundations, how you're going with your external marketing, how you're going with your internal, and then work out from that what you should be focusing on for the year ahead. So something that I like and I use with my internal reviews is when you're thinking about all of these types of marketing, think about whether you should start doing it if you're already not. Think about whether you should stop doing it because you might be doing it but not successfully. You know, think about if you are doing it and you're happy to continue it, everything's going okay, or think about if something needs to change. So I'm going to talk about various types of marketing, and I want you to think about start, stop, continue, change. I am not telling you that you need to do all of these things. I'm telling you that you need to evaluate. So at this time of year, it's time for you to evaluate what you need to start, stop, continue, change. And there may be lots of marketing that you decide not to do, and that's okay. This is the time to evaluate. So we're going to start with the foundations and the absolute basics when it comes to marketing your practice. So the reality is, and I'm sure you agree, you are competing against many businesses now. Many of these businesses, many of these practices have a much larger marketing budget than you. You need to understand that your patients are being bombarded with marketing messages all the time. And it's not necessarily from your competition. It's from the luxury goods suppliers. It's from tech companies. It's from the cruise companies. Okay, you are competing for your patients' attention constantly. They are being bombarded with marketing constantly. And because of this saturation, because of the marketing that they are exposed to everywhere in their lives, they are expecting much more from a dental practice's marketing. So once upon a time, it used to be okay for you to get some clip art and create your own logo. Or it used to be okay to get your nephew for his school project to do a logo for you. Okay, it's not okay anymore. It used to be okay for you to just get your receptionist or your DA just to pop together a little brochure on Word and print it and send it out. Okay, it's not okay anymore. Patients are being bombarded with messages. Patients are expecting more from you and more from your brand. And the reality is that if your marketing, if your branding doesn't look professional, unfortunately, they are going to take it that your clinical skills are not professional as well, okay? Right or wrong, we can have a long conversation about this, but you really need to make your branding look as professional as your practice. You know, and it doesn't need to cost the earth, okay? You can get really beautiful branding taken, carried out to refresh your practice, to make you look professional. So, professional marketing, you know, no more clip art, no more happy teeth guys, no more self-made websites. You know, you can't create your own. Think about your fonts, think about your colours, and please, please, please don't steal images from other people. Do not steal anything from other people's material, because you will get caught out and you may end up with a very nasty letter and a very nasty fine. So, branding, logos is one thing, but think about what happens when patients come into your practice for the first time. Okay, I don't need to tell you this, but marketing begins with interpersonal relationships. Your practice begins with interpersonal relationships. You know, 81% of patients come to a dental practice by word of mouth, and I'm hoping that your practice stacks up to those statistics. But did you also know that 85% of your patients will leave? They will leave you for a perception of lack of patient service. So, what do you need to think about? You need to think about your team. Okay, you may think that this was marketing and you were going to learn about the latest Google AdWords techniques. Okay, this is marketing. Everything is marketing. Your team is marketing. If your team is not performing well, then your brand will be affected. People will not come back and people will not refer you. Okay, so some ways that I think that you should analyze your team are how your phone is answered. Okay, you can spend $1 million every day on your marketing, and guess what? If somebody is answering the phone and they are not skilled and they are not pleasant, then are you going to lose those patients? Absolutely. Okay, let's imagine that you've got them into the practice. How are your patients being greeted by the team? How are they being related to by your team, your DAs, your hygienists? Okay, is your front desk personnel the happiest, most friendly people on the planet? I hope so. Okay, your treatment plans. How are you presenting those? How are your treatment plans being presented by the rest of your team? Okay, you need to look across the board at how you are communicating with your patients, how everybody that has any interaction with your patients, how are they dealing with them? You know, the reality is, if there is something wrong with your team, you need to focus on it and you need to fix it. And this goes with your practice appearance. So I love this photo, absolutely amazing. I don't know whether you can see the clock, but it's well worth zooming in and checking it out. So I'm hoping that your practice does not look like this. But believe me, when I walk into practices, quite often I will see things that you won't, because you see it every day. Okay, you will not see things that your patients will see. So I need you to walk around your practice and look at it with a fresh pair of eyes. Imagine that's the first time that you've been there. You know, look at your signage. Is it up to date? Is it relevant? You know, is it tatty? Are things hanging off the wall? Your upholstery, you know, what condition is it? Do you need a little bit of refurb? Have you got paintwork that's flaking? Have you got old pot plants, old magazines? You know, just have a fresh look around your practice. Okay, it's really, really important, because all of these are foundations. All of this makes a difference to the first impression that your patients have when they come to your practice. Okay, so I'm going to go to talk about external marketing. And for those of you that don't know what external marketing is what you do to attract new patients into your practice. So you need to use the right marketing tools, the right channels, the right techniques to attract the right kind of patients to your practice. There are a whole ton of things that we could talk about. We have an hour. I can't go through them all, okay? But I'm going to talk about a few that I think are most important. But I do want you to take the time and to analyse all of your external marketing. Use the list here, okay? Look at your print advertising, look at your direct marketing, look at your Google AdWords. The things that I can't talk about, I want you to look at. So make sure that you take this list, write it down, analyse whether you should start, stop, change, or continue. Okay, every single piece of marketing that you do needs to be analysed once a year at the minimum. So I'm going to start with what I consider as the most important, as a website. Now, the reality is the website is the first point of contact that your patients and prospective patients will have with you online. And I'm sure that you agree, if I were to tell you there's an amazing restaurant, you should really go there, I would imagine that the first thing you do is Google them and go to their website. Okay, you have 8 to 10 seconds to grab a person's attention, a patient's attention. So if your website is not working to the max, then you are going to lose that patient, okay? And your website needs to reflect who you are and what you do. So again, I don't have time to go into every single piece of detail here, but hopefully I'm giving you enough information that you can go and research further if you want to. So there's certain things that I believe are absolutely critical to your website success. One of them is the design. Obviously, it needs to have a great design, and you need to use your own photography. I'll talk a little bit more about that. It needs to be really easy to navigate. People are coming there for a reason. They're looking for information. They need to find that information easily. Content, there needs to be enough content and the right content, and the way it's structured needs to be easy for patients to browse and find that information. Mobile friendly, obviously the world is on a mobile device nowadays. Your website absolutely needs to be mobile friendly or responsive. Search engine optimization, so you need to think about how patients can find your website and how it ranks on Google and search engines. Online booking, you need to, or my belief is that all practices need to consider online booking at the absolute minimum nowadays. People are online, people want to book when they want to book, which isn't necessarily when you want to talk to them. So they want to book at their time, okay? Technical build, it obviously needs to be built in a robust environment, and you need to be aware of APRA guidelines. So I'm going to go through a few of these elements that I think are really important. So website images, okay, there is so much competition at the moment, and the easiest way for you to stand out from your competition is to look different, okay? Using your own images, professional photography is the easiest way for you to do this. Don't know whether you are aware, but people are actually blind to stock images. So if you're familiar with the good old photos of the family all smiling happily, or the lady holding an apple, people are blind to those images, okay? So when they get to your website, there will be no emotional connection. They will not get any feeling from your website, and you actually want them to have a feeling, you want them to have a connection, you want them to think about whether they want to come to your practice. So a couple of examples. This is a practice that's using their own photography, okay? Beautiful photography, beautiful practice. Hopefully you can get the feeling, of whether you want to go there or not. You might think, okay, it's too big, it's too expensive, don't want to go there. Or you might think, oh, the team looks happy, it looks really modern, I like the look of that practice. But I am sure that you agree that you are having some kind of emotional reaction here. You're having some kind of thought process. On the flip side, and here's an example of a practice that's just using stock images. Okay, there's nothing here that differentiates it from any other practice website. You know, you've got the images here of the dental team and the support staff, and I'm sure that you can tell as well as I can that these are stock images. This isn't the practice. You know, that's not the team, that's not the staff. You know, why have they got stock images? Because it doesn't reflect the practice in any way. So if you do have images on your website, I do suggest that you go and have a look and analyse and see whether they reflect you and your practice. And if you can, you know, put aside the budget, get some professional photography done this year, update your website, make it look, you know, really good and make it look like you. So content is absolutely critical, and you may or may not be aware, and think about it yourself, that people don't actually read every word on a website. They scan. You know, think about your own behaviour. I am sure that you don't go on and read every word on every page of every website. You're there to find information. Therefore, you need to make the content of your website readily, easily scannable. Okay, you need to structure the content to make it easy to scan. On the flip side, I know I've just said that not everybody or nobody reads every word on every page, with the exception of Google. Okay, so you need to have enough content on your website to make sure it ranks with Google, and you need to have enough content on every single treatment type, because if you've only got a paragraph on teeth whitening, somebody who's Googling teeth whitening is never going to find your business. You need to have a whole page dedicated to teeth whitening, a whole page to veneers. Okay, every single treatment type that you have in your practice needs to have enough content, a page of content. So there are simple ways of how to structure content, and I'm guessing that you look at this page and just like me, there's no way that you are going to read this page. Nothing about this page makes it attractive or browsable or scannable. And there is a simple science of how to structure content online. And here it is. You need to use headings, bullets, images, bold the text that you want to stand out, quote box if there's anything there that you really want to highlight, and a call to action. So it's a very simple science, but it makes a huge difference. People want to scan your text. They want to scan your content. So another one, which is probably quite obvious, but I'm going to show you anyway, is the world is on a mobile phone. Okay, so just imagine you're sitting on that train, you're looking for a dentist, you come up with two websites. Okay, website 1, website 2. What one are you going to contact? Okay, I'm hoping that you're going to say website 2. Look at your phone, put your website on your phone and see what happens. Okay, see if your website is mobile, is responsive. And it's not just your patients who are going to judge your website on a mobile device. Okay, Google will now mark your website down. You will lose ranking if it's not mobile friendly. So analyze your website, guys. Think about the content, think about the navigation, think about the images, and then obviously, consider online booking. So we're still talking about websites, but I want to talk about search marketing. And again, I apologize, I'm talking quite at a high level about all of this, but I just want you to give you enough information for you to think about what you need to know, and maybe prompt some thoughts on where you need to, educate yourself a little bit more deeply. So search marketing, the reality is, you may have the most beautiful website in the world, but nobody's going to find it if it is not there online, okay, if it can't be found on Google. So I'm just going to go very high level, and I'm going to talk to you about two terms, SEO and pay-per-click. So search engine optimization and pay-per-click advertising. So pay-per-click advertising. This is where you pay to rank on Google. So this is where you're spending money to pay Google for where your website ranks. Okay, this is where you spend your dollar, somebody clicks, your dollar goes. Okay, it's a very short-term solution, but it has its place. Okay, it's great if you need to have a lot of patients quickly. On the flip side, search engine optimization. This is where your website ranks organically. This is where a well-built website can rank over time. There are many aspects to this, and I don't have time to talk about it tonight, but it's how your website is built, how you maintain your website, what content's there, how often you update it. So search engine optimization is there for long-term visibility. Okay, it's a long game. You need to invest in your website. You need to invest in the content. You need to invest in keeping that content updated. If you need something fast, something furious, then pay-per-click Google AdWords is a very good short-term solution. But use pay-per-click in addition and not in lieu of search engine optimization. Again, I've gone very quickly. I do apologize. We've got a lot to cover. If you do have questions, pop into the Facebook group and I can answer those there. So social media, everybody is probably thinking about it or talking about social media. So why social media? The reality is 69% of Australians are now on social media. Okay, and why is this so huge? And why is this rapidly happening? And it's because people are buying from people. People want to know about you. They want to know about a business. They want to know what happens behind closed doors. And for a dentist, for a health professional, they want to know that you care. They want to know the human side of your practice. They want to know what you're doing. They want to know about the team. If they're coming to see you once every 6 months, and I really do hope they are, then you have very little time to spend with them and to really communicate with them. So this is a really ideal channel for you to tell your story outside of those four walls of your surgery. I also want to point out that social media is not a silver bullet. Okay, by doing social media will not guarantee you a whole flood of instant patients. Okay, like any marketing, it takes time. So my recommendation is start out slowly and gradually on social media. Make it somebody's job in the team. Have fun, and make it real. Make it reflect your practice. Don't try and be everybody else. Back to authenticity. Make sure it reflects you and your team. You're all part of a community, so share what's going on, share what the other businesses are doing, interact with the other businesses online. If you're doing charity work, if you're supporting the community, talk about it. It's a perfect place for you to educate your patients, inform them on things that matter to you, and absolutely critical, you need to be aware of the APRA advertising guidelines. Again, if you want to know more about this, hop onto the Facebook page and Facebook group and I can add more information. So that's it on external marketing, what you can do to get new patients in to your practice. So once you've got your patients in, you need to keep them in. Okay, this is the most valuable asset in your practice. So you need to think about the right ways to keep your patients in. So internal marketing is the term that refers to everything you do to make sure that your patients remain in your practice and to obviously to reactivate any dormant patients. So as I said, attracting your patients is only the first step. You now need to build relationships with your existing patients, and you need to understand the correct marketing tools and techniques to turn them into long-term patients and regular patients. So again, there is a whole ton of marketing tools and techniques that you can use for internal marketing. We do not have time to talk about them all. So I'm going to talk about two: email newsletters and promotions. But I really need you to think about everything else that we're not talking about. You know, how does your reception area look? What do you have in there? Do you have waiting room videos? Do you have brochures in there? Are you talking to your local health professionals, and are you handing out referral brochures? You know, how is your phone communication? How are you handling your recalls? Is it fully automated or is it a manual system? You know, are you saying thank you to your patients? Are you using on-hold messaging? Okay, so take the time, beginning of the year, to assess your marketing. Okay, assess how you are communicating to your internal patients. So I've said it once and I'm saying it again, it is your most valuable asset. Did you know that attracting new patients, acquiring new patients, costs 5 to 10 times more the cost of retaining your existing ones? So it's absolutely critical that you retain your existing patients. And truthfully, we're in a competitive market now, so you need to hang on to your patients, okay, because your competitors are going to try to attract them to come to them. So you may or may not know that there's been a number of studies shown or taken on why patients leave a practice. And one of the main reasons that patients leave is that practices do not stay in touch. So regular communication with your existing patients is absolutely critical. So email newsletters, I believe, is absolutely fundamental to a practice's success. Staying in communication with your patients is critical. So the reason I love email newsletters is because you guys know who your patients are. So if, you know, back to the example of my favourite restaurant, they probably don't know who I am. They don't know where I live. They don't know what my birthday is. They don't know what I had last time I came in, okay? You are sitting on a gold mine. You know who your patients are. Okay, you know whether they've got outstanding treatment plans. You know, or I hope you know, whether they are due for a checkup or overdue for a checkup. So using email newsletters uses the database that you already have, uses your practice management information. So they are very cost effective of communicating with your existing patients. Because of this, they'll increase the lifetime value of your patient. You can use them to reactivate your patients. And the thing that I love is that you actually get instant measurement, that you can see who's opened, you can see who's clicked, you can see who's gone back to your website, okay? If you were to place an advert in a local newspaper, you have no idea who's opened the paper, who's read your advert, okay? It's absolutely critical. So, you know, and on top of this, they enhance your reputation and hopefully increase the number of patients into your practice. So please, please, please think about new patients and existing patient reactivation with your email newsletters. So incentive-based marketing, also known as promotions. Again, I'm not saying do it, I'm saying think about it. You know, the reality is that people are procrastinators. The reality is that dentistry is a discretionary spend. They have a choice whether they're going to come in and see you every 6 months. They have a choice whether they're going to have that implant placed. Okay? 81% of Australian consumers have purchased because of promotional offer. I would say 100% of the Australian consumers that I know have purchased because of a promotional offer. You know, think about it yourself. You know, have you bought something because there was a promotional offer? I'm guessing the answer is yes. Okay, think about it. You know, think about whether you are going to run any type of promotional offer in your practice. It's a polarizing conversation, and I'm going to leave it up to you. But, you know, think about whether you should run any type of promotion. You know, these are great for attracting new patients and existing patients. And it's also great if you are expanding your services. You know, if you're offering teeth whitening, if you're offering mouth guards, you know, or if you're offering implants and you're bringing those into your practice, you know, it's a good way of being able to promote new services. So, promotional steps, 3 steps, a plan. Talking about planning all night, okay? So you need to think about what you're trying to achieve. You know, what services are you trying to promote? Think about your ideal patient and think about whether they even want to have this service, okay? Then think about when is the timing? When is the right time for you to start running these promotions? If you decide the promotions are right for you, then you need to think about promoting them. And you need to promote them through as many channels, as many touch points as you can. So what this means is you need to promote them in your practice, so in your reception area, in your treatment rooms, okay, good old print marketing. You need to use email newsletters or EDMs, you know, even SMS. So think about digital, put them on your website. You know, think about putting them on social media. So as many touch points as you can, because the more times people see, the more likely people will act. Okay? And like everything, every type of marketing, you need to track. You need to think about what worked, you know, if it needs tweaking, you know, if it was successful, or, you know, or if it crashed and burned. So, you know, if it worked, what was return on investment? So, you know, how much money did you make as a result of this? Or how much money did you lose as a result of the promotion? You need to test, you need to measure, you know, and you need to change it if it didn't work. Okay, so promotions, hopefully that's a little bit of a highlight. Let me know. Log into the Facebook group if you have any questions. So reputation management. The reality is, guys, that people are writing about you and your team online. Okay, prospective patients are going to read these reviews, so you need to be aware of what's being said about you online. So I'm hoping that you're not sticking your head in the sand. I'm hoping that you are watching and listening to the good, the bad and the ugly of what's being said about you online. You know, learn what's being said. You know, if people are saying that you are the happiest practice in town, that is great. Tell the team that they are doing an amazing job. Okay, if they're saying that you are the grumpiest practice in town, or your receptionist is the grumpiest person on the planet, you need to learn from this and do something about it. If they're saying that they love you but you're always running late, it's time to change something. Okay, so learn what people are saying. You know, respond. You know, respond openly and honestly to what people are saying about you online. And again, I can't go into this in too much detail, and you need to understand that you cannot ask your patients, your clients for reviews. Okay, I will repeat, you cannot ask for reviews. Okay, so just think, are you monitoring reviews? Is this something that you need to put in your 2020 marketing plan? Log on to the Facebook group, ask any questions. Okay, so the final step is tracking. So obviously, you need to continuously review your marketing, you know, online and offline. You need to assess what's working, what isn't working, and why. And you need to assess the return on investment. You need to know whether it's working and revise anything that it's not, okay? And people often ask, well, how do I know? Okay, how do I know whether something's working? Back to the very beginning, you need to look at the numbers, okay? You need to look at the cost versus the return. And quite simply, the return on investment needs to be 3 to 1. This means that for every dollar that you spend, you need to have a $3 return. Repeat that. Every dollar you spend needs to have a $3 return. If you're getting 3 or more, then I consider that as successful marketing. If you're getting less than 3, then you need to look at it. You need to analyze. You need to think about whether you need to stop it, or change it. And how often should you review? Okay, how often should you be analysing your marketing? When we work with practices, we work on a monthly basis, okay, and we check in and we see if they're on track, if they're carrying on, with their goals. On a quarterly basis, we look at the numbers, okay, so high-level numbers, we start to analyse those and we go very, very deep. And then annually, review everything. Everything we've talked about in this webinar this evening, you need to look at every point of marketing, every interaction, and decide whether it needs to be fixed, okay, whether it's working or not. Okay, track everything, track the return on investment, and then assess your ideal patient. Are they really the same people that you wanted a year ago? Are you saying the right things, and are you running the right campaigns? So I do hope that you are now a little bit more prepared, a little bit more ready for 2020. I just want to take a little bit of time to talk about a product that we've just launched, and it's the Fully Booked Dentist Academy. So back to the very beginning, we talked about practices having no plan when it comes to their marketing, the wrong skills, they don't know how to market their practice, or they don't know how to talk to suppliers, and they've been burnt, because of this lack of education, because of this lack of knowledge. I talk to so many practices that have just spent money, wasted money, been taken for a ride. So I've written the book, I do the courses, I do the webinars, but the problem that I've seen is it's not enough. I can only cover so much, as you've experienced, in a 1-hour webinar. And there are too many practices that need one-to-one help. So I needed something that I could help you guys at scale. So in November 2019, we launched the Fully Booked Dentist Academy. And this is an online education and group coaching academy for your dental marketing. So what's included? So e-learning. So every seminar and webinar that I've ever given and will ever give is online, that you can watch at your leisure. You can download the slides, you can listen to the audio, you can pause, you can drill down to specific subjects. So every webinar I've ever done and will ever do. The social media download. So something that we've seen is as practices struggle with knowing what to post, knowing how to source those images, knowing when to post. So there's social media images there for you to put straight online on social media. There's calendars of ideas of what to use and when to post. There's printables that you can print out, little signs, and use in your practice to use with your team and patients. There are roadmaps. So if you are a new practice, it steps you through what you could do to market your practices every single step. If you're an established practice, it goes through every single step of planning, of going back to the basics, building the right foundation, attracting patients. So everything that I've touched on tonight, you can drill deeper into. There's a closed Facebook group where you can ask questions and we can interact. Tip sheets, ebooks that you can take out, print and use in your practice and share with the team, and monthly live group coaching sessions and more. Okay, so it's constantly being updated and upgraded. So the price for this is $99 per month for as long as you want to be there. There's no minimum time, no maximum time. It's for as long as you want to be there. And the launch price and the webinar special is $79 per month. So as a webinar attendee, I am proud and happy to offer you a reduced fee for as long as you want to be a member. And because we are a business that believes in giving back, for every founding member, that we're going to give 30 days of dental hygiene to people in need around the world. So if you are interested, go to the fullybookedentist.online, webinar 79. Okay, so that is the landing page that you can sign up for this offer. If you do want to know more, then please email me and I can send you more information on this. And finally, thanks to healthengine for sponsoring this event. So just briefly, healthengine is Australia's largest network of patients with over 3.5 million Australians visiting every month. In the last 12 months, there's been a 63% rise in the number of dental bookings and 40% increase of new patient numbers. In fact, I'm going to just flip to this screen because it's far more beautiful. So on average, a dental practice on healthengine receives 6 new patients per month. So if you do want to know more, then healthengine are happy to provide more information, or you can go to this link before. So if you do want to know more about the Fully Booked Dentist or healthengine, please let us know. You can either respond to the email, type into the Q&A box, or you can email me at the following. So I'd like to thank you for your attention this evening. It's been really great to spend this time with you, and I look forward to another webinar in the very near future. Thanks.